Hey, it's me. I am still really new to sitting in front of a camera. This is still like super weird for me, but I kind of like it. I like this idea of just like sitting and hanging out with you guys. You can just be friends, we can talk, we can tell some stories, we can have some wine. And I figured, since this is a horror channel and all, that I might as well sit down and talk to you guys about my biggest fears. I think it'd also be kind of cool if we all shared our both rational and irrational fears. So if you want to share, if you want to have some laughs at each other, or if you want to share something a little bit more serious, go ahead and leave your biggest fears in the comments down below, and I am about to share mine with you and try not to laugh too hard because they're a little weird. So just to get the boring ones out of the way, I am pretty afraid of bugs. I don't know why. I don't know how this happened. I used to love bugs when I was a kid. I used to make these little like amusement parks for ants out of just little bits of plastic toys that I would find around, and I would stay in this cabin over the summer with my family, and it was kind of old. It would get a lot of buggies in it. So there'd usually be ants walking around our living room floor, and I would have them like climb all over my little amusement park that I made, and it was so fun. I had these little like plastic rubbery glow-in-the-dark toys that were like centipedes and beetles and like all kinds of stuff that I would scream my head off if I were to see now. So I'm not really sure when this happened or why it happened, because it's a pretty irrational fear. Like there's no reason to be afraid of most bugs. But if I hear some bug buzzing around the room, I don't care if it's a fly, I don't care if it's a ladybug, it's nasty. You're nasty! Get out! It also like kind of negatively affects my life a little bit, because especially when I lived alone, I used to like call my friends and ask them to come over to remove a bug from my apartment. I'm a grown woman, like I shouldn't have to do that. Anyway, onto something a little bit more interesting. I am super afraid of horses. Yes, just the regular animal horses. They don't have to be doing anything weird. They don't have to be a weird horse. Just horses. There's no reason for an animal to be that big. Like, they're just huge, and they got those big weird fish eyes on the side of their head, and they got those big scary teeth. And you've probably run into those videos where like someone will go up to pet a horse and the horse will like chomp at them. Horrifying. Horrifying. Oh my god. And the fact that they just like trample people, like everyone's like, oh, just don't walk behind them so that it doesn't murder me. And people let their children around horses all the time. No. No! I've talked to a few other people who are also afraid of horses, so like I know that I'm not alone, but I also know it's a little irrational. Like, yeah, they're giant killing machines or whatever, but I get it. In most contexts, they're like totally fine. They're chill animals. They're like beautiful. I just think they're creepy and scary, and I don't like the idea of an animal that you encounter all the time that could and would just murder you. On the topic of creepy fish eyes on the side of horse heads, this next fear is a little bit more difficult for me to describe because it's a little bit nuanced, but it's basically things that are underwater. Now, I don't necessarily mean like fish or like algae, it's just like stuff that's underwater. If something has been submerged underwater for an extended period of time, it creeps me out. If I can see the things under the water, it creeps me out. If I can't see the things under the water, it also creeps me out. Some of the worst examples of this are like, I don't know why anyone does this, whale watching? That's horrifying. Whale watching, I have nightmares about whale watching. Awful. Awful. Like, that vision of being in a boat and seeing this massive animal, like the size of a football field, like huge, slimy, underwater creature, just like coming up to your boat and not going out of the water, but just coming close enough to the surface of the water where you can still clearly see it and there's just like that thin layer of water over it. It creeps me out so bad. It's the worst. And like the idea of like statues underwater. I think that's even worse. Deep sea creatures, obviously creepy. Like I think a lot of people are afraid of them, but I'm just talking about like stuff that's been underwater. Like the bottom of a boat, no. None of that. It's actually kind of weird because I encounter this fear pretty often in a really weird place, which is searching for stock footage. So I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of the video clips that I put into my narration videos, I get from stock footage websites. So I pay for a subscription, I download videos from them, and then I like do little edits to them. And it's also nice because I don't have to go out and like film all this stuff on my own, which I don't have the talent or time for. So I really appreciate that these services exist. What I don't appreciate is how often my biggest fear pops up when I'm like searching for something totally unrelated. I don't know what it is. So I typically use Bigstock, not sponsored. So bigstock.com is the place that I get most of my video clips from. I'm giving away all my secrets here. I'll search for something on there and then all of a sudden like an underwater clip of like, I don't know if it's like oceans or aquariums or something, but it's like murky water and you can see like seaweed or like something, like some kind of object under the water. I don't actually know what it is because I never watch the videos because it just creeps me out, but I'll be scrolling through my search results of totally normal search results based on what I searched, and all of a sudden one of these videos will pop up and I'll just get like goosebumps all over my whole body and I want to throw up. It's kind of awful and stressful. But I also realize that I'm probably the only one who uses Bigstock who has a reaction like that, so it's not like I'm gonna complain about it because it's just like a weird fear of mine that is really stupid. I talked to my sister about that one recently and she has a similar fear, which is interesting because I don't know anyone else with that specific fear. We came up with this theory that it stems from our time at that vacation cabin with the ants that I mentioned earlier. So this cabin was like right across the street from the beach and we would go to the beach all the time. Now this is the beach on a lake, so the water's a little murky, there's a lot of stuff in it, and we would frequently find like random items that had been like thrown in there, like an old radiator or an old refrigerator or whatever. That's normal, right? Lovely childhood memories of that place, don't get me wrong, but I think that just encountering strange like slimy water submerged items for so many years and having our like feet brush up against them while we're swimming induce this paranoia in our minds, so now it's like anything that's underwater for an extended period of time freaks us out. Does anyone else experience this? Or like the thing with the whales that I mentioned earlier, like things coming up to the surface of the water? I'm actually really curious to hear if anyone else gets freaked out by that because I know it's a little weird and I know it's super specific. So make me feel less alone and let me know in the comments if you have that same fear. Now, my last big fear that I'm gonna bring up here, I hope that at least someone gets what I mean by this. I looked at my demographics recently and it seems like over the last year or so, my audience has changed quite a bit, so it's largely people my age, in fact largely women my age. So maybe this will make sense to more of you than I think. One of my biggest fears in the world is like young teenage boys. Just young teenage boys. That's it. Again, just like with horses, they don't have to be doing anything weird. I was not heavily bullied when I was in school, but I was bullied enough where I do kind of get this like sickening fear at the bottom of my stomach when I encounter kids around the ages that I was when I was bullied, because I still, maybe it's just because I'm still young enough for those memories to be pretty fresh, but I still feel like there's a chance they're gonna bully me. I think the other thing that freaks me out about teenagers in general is that they're like pretty fearless. Not to generalize too much, but a lot of teenagers just have this view on life that they're invincible, or that if they get in trouble, like it's not gonna be a big deal because they can just get over it. They just don't give a shit. I guess that's what it is. They just don't give a shit. I'm sure that statistics will prove me wrong on this, but I just feel in my stomach, like not in my brain, I feel like I'm more likely to get mugged or beaten up or like have something stolen from me by like a teenage boy than I am an adult. I don't know, does that make sense? I just get scared that kids are gonna be mean to me. I guess that's really what it comes down to, and I feel like I revert back to being like 13 years old and getting bullied in middle school as soon as I run into a group of teenagers. It's a little embarrassing. I should probably work on getting over that. I don't know. Anyway, so those are some of my biggest fears. I know a lot of them are a little silly. Feel free to poke fun at me in the comments. I get it. It's weird. I'm a weird kid. Totally fine. And like I said before, if you guys have any fears that you want to share with us and you want to discuss down in the comments below, leave them down there. Let's have a little chat about it. Let's see if we have any fears in common. I'm really curious to see how many of you have some of the same fears as me, we can bond about it. It'll be fun. Anyway, thanks for watching, stay spooky, and I'll see you guys later.